the chief marketing officer of the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, a good friend. It's my hometown bowl. I'll always love the Cotton Bowl, whether it's played in all those games that were played in the old stadium in Fair Park, or whether it's the new Cotton Bowl out there at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. It's the Cotton Bowl. It's special, and Michael Konradi is also special here. At one point, we thought he was going to run for mayor in Stillwater, but Michael joins us now. How you doing, man?
Great to hear your voice, Robert. How you doing?
I'm good. I was, every year, Mike knows, he knows when it gets to bowl selection time, he's going to get a text message or an email or something from Robert Allen. Man, what are you hearing? Where are we going? And I got to admit, last year you said, well, I'm hearing maybe, down to Houston. And yeah, you nailed that. And your alma mater was there too. And I liked our chances. But I got to hand it to Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies. They, after we got a early lead in that game, they came back, tied it in the third quarter, and went ahead and won it. We our offense got slowed down by the modified wrecking crew.
It was. I tell you, it was an entertaining game. Yeah, the folks down in Houston do a good job with their bowl game,
They do.
and yeah,
And
they've
I
done a lot
told
of
you
work.
this. I asked, and they said, we studied a lot about what the Cotton Bowl does, and I'm like, well, okay, if you studied the Cotton Bowl, you were studying the right crew. 'Cause it's amazing. Do you guys realize how coaches, players, and teams, schools around the country talk about? God, man, we'd love to go to the Cotton Bowl. Yeah, if the question is asked, which bowl treats you the best? I mean, there is no hesitation. People can't get
Well,
the words Cotton Bowl out quick enough.
you're a good man for saying that. It's listen, we've been at it now. We're going into our 85th Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, and certainly it starts at the top. Rick Baker, our president, and our volunteer leadership do an amazing job, and the city really supports us. I mean, that this is we're part of the fabric of North Texas, and ultimately, it's always been something that people have looked forward to, certainly in North Texas and beyond, and as it relates to our friends down in Houston, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So ultimately, good for them. They're doing great work down there.
You know, um, Last year you guys you were slated to take the top group of five team, and I know that there's always a little bit of I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right word. I don't want to say angst, concern. There's a little bit of concern how good a matchup you will end up with when you know you're going to end up with the group of five team that gets filtered into the New Year's Six. And you guys had Memphis last year, and I don't know, it worked out to where I saw two or three Memphis games on TV because they were on at times. Oklahoma State either was off, or I just had time to watch other college football, which doesn't happen as much as I'd like. And when you guys ended up with Memphis, I told friends of mine, I said, hey, that'll be a good game. I'm promising you that'll be a good game.
Yeah.
And I have a healthy respect for James Franklin and Penn State, but you guys ended up with a pretty good game.
Well, it was a barn burner. I mean,
Yes.
combined most points scored in the classic, and you go into this game, and you would have thought with Penn State's defense that it would have been a defensive struggle, but no. I mean, both offenses lit it up, and really it wasn't until the fourth quarter where Penn State had the interception that kind of sealed it for them, but pulled them away. But bottom line is, yeah, Memphis showed up to play, and their fans came strong. I mean, if you look at the teams that were kind of in discussion there at the end of the season from a group of five perspective, Memphis was probably the best case scenario for us, and certainly their fan base came strong, and it's always exciting to have those teams from an operations perspective because obviously it's a huge deal for the likes of Memphis, Western Michigan when they were in our game 3 years prior, and those teams that just aren't used to those huge bowl experiences, and so to have them in our game and have those players get the experience that they had, I think it's a lot of fun to watch.
Interesting. situation we find ourselves in, and for the
That's
bowl games,
that's an understatement. Yeah,
yeah.
what crazy
By and
day,
by the,
crazy day.
are you working from home mostly?
I am talking to you from the home office as we speak.
Okay, cool,
Yes.
cool. Anyway,
So
go ahead with your
it'll be interesting
assessment.
to see
Your
my
assessment of
assessment.
where we sit right now with college football, because
Yeah.
it's a long time till the bowl games, but you guys have to be monitoring this all the time, because a change in the schedule could certainly
Oh,
change
there's
your
no doubt.
yeah.
Yeah, and beyond that, Robert, obviously our organization runs all of the regular season college games at AT&T Stadium, working closely with the stadium and the Cowboys. So, right out of the chute, we've got USC and Alabama in the Avocare Classic, and so yes, we're absolutely monitoring as best we can. But certainly, if anybody comes on your station and says they have the answer, I'd love to meet them, because nobody knows for sure, and certainly everything is kind of conjecture right now, and to see how the conjecture has changed over the last month. A few weeks ago, I would have said, we're headed towards possibly a delay in the season where, and we still may be, who knows, but ultimately that delay was going to be made based on getting, politicians, if you will, kind of out of the decision tree, and delaying it. So hopefully that would help the cause. But now it's certainly, the rhetoric has changed, and a lot of discussion right now about, conferences going at it, as they see fit, different strokes for different folks. So, could you have a scenario where at the end of the season you've got teams that have played, a full slate of games, and other teams that have only played a portion of their games? So that's going to be really interesting to see how that affects things. I know, you've got schools like Notre Dame that are anxious about this conference only um, scenario and how it affects them, right, with not being a part of a conference. So there's just so much out there that to see how this is going to play out. But beyond that, certainly the operational aspect of how you run a facility, how you prepare for an event in the post COVID era, and try to certainly make it safe for fans, and create an environment where fans will want to come back. And here's to hoping that happens sooner rather than later. But all contingencies, all options on the table right now for us. And certainly playing in the AT&T Stadium, where we get to take the lead from the Cowboys, and when it comes to the Cotton Bowl, we've got probably the longest runway of anybody to learn best practices from other pro sports leagues, certainly college football regular season, that will hopefully make us a well-oiled machine come December 30th or later, if indeed the postseason of college football is pushed back.
Yeah, God, I can't. Of course, with everything we're going through, I guess I should get used to seeing things differently. But seeing bowl games anytime other than the bowl season, uh, would be, to me, that would be very unnatural. But hey, let me bring this up, because I just heard this morning. Oklahoma State scheduled to open on a Thursday against Oregon State in Stillwater on September 3rd. And like you mentioned, the Cotton Bowl folks will be administering the game on Saturday between Alabama and USC. And so far, Oregon State has said, hey, if the season starts on time, we plan on being in Stillwater. I talked to one of their radio guys on the show the other day. But, there's some concern about, teams on the West Coast coming this way that early in the season. Dave Hunziker's daughter Mara, who is a graduate of Oklahoma State, just graduated, and she's in grad school. She texted yesterday, look, if USC can't make it to Dallas to play Alabama, and if Oregon State can't come to Stillwater, the Cowboys would be fine with going down to Arlington and playing Alabama. Now, I don't think she consulted Mike Gundy on that, but I liked the Twitter. Dave,
Creative,
I
creative.
talked to yeah, I talked to Dave this morning. He said, well, the conjecture was maybe TCU would fill in there, and he said my daughter Mara said no, we'll go play Alabama. He
Mm.
told her we'll go tweet it. So there you go. If y'all need a
There you go.
replacement to play Alabama, Mara Hunziker says we'll be down there.
There you go. Well, the rumor mill about the TCU, idea seemed to come to fruition yesterday, more so, and so today you're going to lead the charge to replace it with Oklahoma State. Obviously,
TCU, hey,
who
we
knows
got
what
all
happens
these
with our friends
returning
at the
players.
Pac-12? Yeah, I think it goes back to that concept we were just talking about, though, Robert, about different strokes for different folks,
Sure.
and what happens if the Pac-12 is not ready to go because government officials are saying they can't, or and obviously the announcement, I guess it was yesterday or today, about how the California State University
Yeah.
system has already announced that they're going to do online learning in the fall. So, it is going to be fascinating to see how this plays out across the country, north versus south, east versus west.
One thing I wanted to ask you too, and this will go to a different topic. I need to raise my hand. Topic change. The way the college football, and we've got Bill Hancock coming up right after you.
There you
The
go.
way the CFP is working out in conjunction with the bowl games, the semifinals being part of the bowl structure, and I think this year it's if I'm not mistaken, it's the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl that will act as semifinals for the championship game, which is going to be in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. I mean,
You are correct.
you feel like the Cotton Bowl and the other bowls that are part of the New Year's Day Six that they're good with the way this thing has worked out with the CFP.
From our perspective, it's worked out well. I mean, we look at it in kind of a 3-year cycle, right? So for the
Hmm.
sake of the Cotton Bowl this year, we are guaranteed basically a top 10 matchup of Power Five conference teams. So if you look at it with the Rose and the Sugar hosting the semifinals, the teams that traditionally goes to the Rose and the Sugar go into the bucket that we have to, that the CFP has to choose from when they put together the matchup. So ultimately, if you look at it 3 years ago, we got the Rose Bowl matchup. We got
Yeah.
USC versus Ohio State in our game, and so certainly that's a sexy game on paper, and it was a great game, and ultimately we expect to have something similar this year. So you look at that, and certainly next year we're the semifinal along with the Orange Bowl, which is always the big enchilada and the one that you really plan for, and certainly it seems to do really well from a business perspective. And then in that third year, we know we're going to get the group of five team every third year, and that that presents some business challenges, but at the same token, also has a lot of benefit. So really for us, it's been extremely positive. And keep in mind too that the Cotton Bowl before the college football playoff era was not part of the top tier. The BCS system before the CFP was such where we were on the outside looking in, and so now we're at the top of postseason college football, and so it's been really good for us, and having a chance to work closely with the CFP too, that happens to have their headquarters here in North Texas, really bodes well as well. We've thoroughly enjoyed working with Hancock and his staff, and having them here locally has been a real benefit, I think.
And then also, I know you use the Rose Bowl as an example, but the other semifinal is the Sugar Bowl, which would free up the normal Big 12 SEC participants that would be in New Orleans. It would free them up too, possibly to
Correct.
end up in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
So,
Listen, absolutely. I mean, I saw one of the way too early bowl picks had Oklahoma playing Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl this year.
well, there you
So
go.
sign us up. From a standpoint of Big 12
I
versus SEC.
and you know why I like that pick of Oklahoma and Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl, because
Let's hear it.
that might mean that Oklahoma State took care of Oklahoma, took care of their business, and the Cowboys are playing either in the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl as a CFP team. So
There you go. There
yeah,
you go. I like it.
honestly, and I don't know how much you scout teams out there, but that's the other concern for I think a lot of Oklahoma State fans, Mike, is that this is a year Oklahoma State's got almost like that 2011 team with Weed and Blackman and company. They've got a decade all best type team returning Chuba and Tylan Wallace and 10 starters on defense. And Spencer Sanders is going to have to improve, but he is a returning starter at quarterback. And you got a lot of pieces to the puzzle for Mike Gundy this year.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, Gundy does such a good job of just reloading over time and putting a highly competitive product on the field. It seems like year after year after year, and so ultimately, I do hope for the sake of the Oklahoma State faithful and certainly all of college football that we have a chance to play this year because I really think there's going to be some teams like Oklahoma State that have shots to make a real change to the kind of the landscape of college football as it's been over the last few years, where it seems like it's a steady dose of Clemson and Alabama. And not to say Clemson and Alabama, I'm sure they're going to be great again, but it's also fun to see some new teams come into the mix that have a chance to compete.
Yeah, and your alma mater, who we saw down in the Texas Bowl, they return a starting quarterback in Kellen Mond, and they return a lot of pieces to the puzzle. And I think everything I hear is Jimbo Fisher feels like the Aggies are going to be a threat over there in the SEC too. So
And
it'll
Jimbo's now had his time down there to recruit his athletes and ultimately, yeah, I mean, there's going to be high expectations for A&M, but obviously playing in the SEC West with the teams they have to compete against on a weekly basis is I don't wish it on my worst enemy. That's a gauntlet. If you get through that and can get to a college football playoff, much less a Year Six bowl game, you've had a heck of a season.
well, based on the NFL draft, I'm going to say LSU's been weakened some.
True, true.
Their
Yeah,
whole team got drafted. Okay.
pretty much. Yes. Was it 14 players that got drafted? I mean, that's
Oh god,
amazing.
it was insane. It was insane.
Yeah.
Uh, hey, as always, enjoy talking to you again. Best to you and Rick and Charlie and everybody. You guys are the best. I mean,
Well, Robert, we hope that we get to see you here in person soon enough. And obviously, bummed that Big 12 football media day is not happening in its
yeah,
traditional format, and so we'll miss seeing you here in Dallas for that. But hopefully we'll cross paths here soon enough in person, and we can find that new normal.
yeah. If Morris, as Morris suggested, we can't sub in for USC, then maybe we'll be there for that game at the end of the year, first Saturday in December to play for a Big 12 title. I think a lot of Oklahoma State fans are hoping that's exactly where Mike Gundy can get his team to start with for the postseason. So we'll see.
And here's to hoping those fans can travel and fill up a stadium. So
Oh, they will.
we'll
Hey, if
there's
Oklahoma State
no
makes to
doubt
the
that
Big
they
12,
will travel. It's just whether or
yeah,
not we'll be able to have fans. That's our goal. Here's to
that's the
hoping
point.
that there's a lot of wonderful scientists that are working hard, and kudos to all the first responders out there, the people on the front line right now that are keeping us safe. So appreciate you, Robert, and go Pokes.
All right, thanks, Michael. Michael Konradi, Chief Marketing Officer for the Cotton Bowl. We